Good evening, everyone. My name is Cynthia Loesch-Johnson, and I'm president of the Codman Square Neighborhood Council. I want to thank you all for joining us this evening for the Codman Square Neighborhood Council's monthly community meeting. I just want to remind everyone on the meeting that this meeting is being recorded. The closed captioning has been enabled, so I want to make sure that function is working. You can use the chat to ask questions, and this meeting is going to be available on our YouTube channel after the meeting so that you can share it with your friends, your family, and your neighbors. I really do want to encourage you all to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've been meeting virtually since 2020, and there are just a lot of information that you guys can share with your friends, family, and neighbors from the YouTube channel. So I just want to encourage that. Now, let me just check to see if B3 or C11 is on, because we like to start our meetings with our police districts. If they are not on, then we'll jump around in the agenda just a little bit. Here is the agenda just for your review. We have a lot to cover, and so we'll be moving through things efficiently. And if they're not on, then the first person I will hand it off to is Richard Scott to tell us what's been going on in the Codman Square parks.
Hello everyone, how's everyone doing? So my name is Richard Scott. I have been working with the bowl teams this summer as the park coordinator. So I want to invite you all to visit at the Common Square Farmers Market on Saturdays to learn more about the renovations that we're working on, we're proposing to do at the Common Square Park that we have the farmers market at. So we've been able to currently secure $643,000 in capital dollars, $150,000 in CPA dollars, and we're waiting to hear back about the $150,000 from the Brown Fund. So I have a link right here that I will share in the chat, but we pretty much just want you guys to fill out a survey and let us know about what you guys would like to see at the park. We want this to be a community-filled event, park where, more people are attracted to that area. We really want to build that area for the community. So we would love to hear you guys' thoughts. So I would drop that in the chat. And I also like to say, as far as park updates, we recently just had our last playtime in the park at the Dr. Loesch Family Park yesterday from 1 to 5 at the corner of Wainwright and Brent Street. And it was just a great summer, honestly. It was just a great way to get the youth active in the community. There's a lot of kids now in this generation, they're always, connected to the TV or games and things like that. So, it was just great to see, the kids really out and just being active and outdoors again. So I want to give a big shout out to Chef Johnson, the bowl teams for all their time and effort throughout this initiative. On top of that, we also had our last movie night last Friday. The last movie was Coco. It was a great time. These last 2 months have been really a hit. We just enjoyed having a lot of families come out, donate, and the families just loved that time. We definitely want to bring that back. So Kristina, if you're here, can you introduce yourself and talk about your experience there? Movie night?
Hi, I'm Kristina. What do you want me to do?
Yeah, if you could just talk about a little bit about your experience with the movie night.
So like Richard said, the movie night was a hit. We had a popcorn machine, which was hard to work with at first, but I got the hang with it. And the only struggle was getting bit by bugs. But besides that, I feel like the movie night was successful.
Thank you, Kristina. So yeah, this pretty much sums up my agenda with notes. I'd like to thank again for all the families that have, showed up and supported the events going on in the park. We'll look forward to do more things like this for the upcoming summer. So, let me know if you guys have any suggestions. I live in the area, so I'm always here. So, I just put that link for the survey for the Common Square renovation. So, thank you guys for your time.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Kristina. Does anyone have any questions for them with regard to the Codman Square Park capital improvements or all of the fun summer activities that they led at both Dr. Loesch Family Park and the Codman Square Park? Any questions or comments? Let's see what's in the chat. Oh, Melissa said she agrees. She had a great time at movie night. Low key and relaxing. Can't wait until next year. You hear that, you all? They want movie nights to come back next summer. Any other questions or comments? I really just want to thank you both for all of the time and attention that you gave these parks in Codman Square. The parks were live, active, vibrant. It was just really nice to see, and we want to see that continue. So thank you, guys. Moving along in the agenda, you guys used the reaction tool to let me know if you've been to the Codman Square Farmers Market this year. This season. Check this out. Who's been? Well, if you, okay, great. I see Amy's been. Brian, good. If you haven't been, please make sure to stop by. The Codman Square Farmers Market takes place at the Codman Square Park on Saturdays from 11 to 2. It's how we bring fresh, local, organic produce to our community. Don't mind my son in the background. In addition to the farm fresh food and local vendors, our market also includes weekly events for Social Saturdays where we bring the community together in a safe and engaging way. So some of the upcoming events include local art market, an authors market. Make sure you take these down. September has a lot of fun events. We're also going to have a Black-owned market where we focus on small Black-owned businesses, a culture market every Saturday. It's just a really wonderful time because you see the Codman Square Park really brought to life, and everyone's coming together focused on not just the farmers market, but then all of the community resources and all of the other community initiatives taking place in the park and supporting our community. Any questions on the Codman Square Farmers Market or Social Saturdays? No, let me check the chat. Great. Our farmers market manager is Catherine Charles, and she's really been doing a phenomenal job. The farmers market is such a phenomenal resource, especially when we're still dealing with the pandemic and families having limited access to food, especially farm fresh organic food, and that's what we deserve and need in Codman Square. And so I'm really happy to see this market continue. It's our 14th season and residents don't want to see the market end. So we just continue to push through and have it every year. The last update we wanted to share was, as you remember, we conducted an assessment in 2019 of the merchants in Codman Square and determined that there were 31 beauty, hair, and nail salons, 19 convenience stores, 17 restaurants, of which none were a sit-down restaurant, providing healthy food options. And the restaurants included a McDonald's and KFC, along with a Popeyes proposed between the two. And residents were just really frustrated with this assessment of our community. And ultimately, we're not surprised with the health inequities that we face with all the junk food, alcohol, and tobacco sold in our community. And now we have 2 cannabis dispensaries that have been approved in the same half-mile radius on Washington Street. And this is all within a half mile of the Great Hall, which is the centrally located space in Codman Square. And so I really just want to ask you guys to take a moment, pull out your camera phones, aim it at the QR code to take this survey that the Neighborhood Council and the Bold Teens have prepared. It'll just take you 60 seconds. We really just want to find out what it is that you all want to see in Codman Square, because the residents we're talking to, they're just really frustrated with a lot of the same. They want more diversity in the Merchants District. They want healthier options available to us. We want a vibrant Merchants District, and that's just not been happening for us. So I'm going to put the survey link in the chat as well if you guys aren't able to utilize the QR code, but please take the survey so we can hear more of what people want to see. We've been hearing people want just a place to sit down and eat food, a place to get a decent cup of coffee, a pet shop, florist, the list goes on, but we really want to hear your input. So just take the 60 seconds, fill that out for us. It'll be very helpful as we advocate for the things that we want to see in Codman Square. Any questions about the survey or the assessment? Any thoughts or comments? Great. Okay, moving along in the agenda, this is just a quick reminder of the importance of voting in the upcoming election. Tuesday, September 14th is the preliminary municipal election, and Tuesday, November 2nd is the municipal election. Quick overview, many of you already know this, but for those of you that don't, we have 5 major mayoral candidates. There are 17, yes, 17 candidates for the city's 4 at-large council seats. And 9 candidates for the District 4 seat. Tonight, you will hear from some of these candidates. I also encourage you to view our previous meetings on YouTube to hear from candidates that have previously met with us. Getting to know these candidates, it's so important to help inform our decision on election day. Some of these candidates care deeply about the concerns that we have in Codman Square. Some don't spend a lot of time in Codman Square, if any. We need to know these things to know who we are voting for and what their priorities are. We need to show up and vote. When we vote, we're voting for ourselves, our quality of life, our families, and our communities. So it's so important that we take the time to get to know these candidates. And tonight we have a few candidates that we'll get to know. Let me stop sharing quickly and introduce our first speaker. So first we'll hear from Joel Richards. He's a District 4 Boston City Councilor candidate. I'll just say in advance that each of you will get just 6 minutes, just a few minutes to introduce yourselves and a few minutes for questions and discussion. And we'll be keeping time just because we have so much to cover this evening. With that said, I will be handing it off to Joel.
And thank you for having me here. Thank you. First of all, thank you for this meeting. I just love seeing like civics and the engagement and all that's going on. This was actually just really well run. The information, even the voting information, everything, and just the things you were saying really connect with me and the values that I have in the campaign that I have. So I really appreciate that. I see a lot of familiar faces, even friends from the gym that I just made recently I'm seeing. So this is great. This is great. My name is Joel Richards. I'm entering my 15th year of teaching. I'm a proud Boston Public School teacher. I currently teach at the Blackstone. I've taught at the Dever, the Mattahunt, the Tobin Young Achievers, and now at the Blackstone. Sorry, got to go through them all in my head. So I always say I've done my tour of duty. I'm a union activist. I also throw, for the last 2 years, I've thrown a Juneteenth rally on Town Field. Just one of the things I want to bring to Dorchester. We've had vendors, similar to what you guys do in the farmers markets. We've had vendors, we've had artists play instruments, poets speak, and different leaders in the community talk about what we need, the things that we need in this community, but also just about Black liberation and liberation of all people, especially something to celebrate on Juneteenth. Also, I have a ministry. I'm a pastor where I give pastors rest. So I travel from different churches throughout Boston and throughout Massachusetts and just give pastors rest. And I get a chance to unpack scripture with different people. My campaign, the heart of my campaign, I keep talking about, I call it my big 3. Because everyone remembers when Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, and Paul Pierce got together and brought home that chip. It is education, small business, and housing. The big ticket, the Kevin Garnett, is housing. We've seen the rising housing prices. We've seen the rents go up on us. They called us essential workers during the pandemic. And then once we got the economy back going, they've raised the rents and raising housing prices back up and started pricing us out of the city and the economy that we got back going. And that's unacceptable. Also, when it comes to education, as a Boston Public School teacher, I see the inequity daily. Of funding. Schools that seem to keep getting more every year, while schools like the ones I've worked in get less and less every year, and we have to fight and advocate for the budget to get increased or just to get somewhere we can actually teach and interact with our kids. I'm also one of the chairs of Black Lives Matter at school. Through my union, we've been able to advocate for ethnic studies, ending of zero tolerance, the hiring of more Black teachers, and then also counselors in the school. This past year, we won a long fight to get a social worker in every school. Some schools have 2, but every school this year has a full-time social worker. Just at my school alone, those social workers have gotten parents jobs, have gotten parents job training, have helped kids get in-school therapy and out-of-school therapy. So, and then my last one, I call it my Ray Allen. It's small business, something near and dear to my heart. As a former chair of Fields Corner Main Street, small business is very important to me, especially as an immigrant, coming from an immigrant family. I'm a first generation Jamaican American. My wife immigrated here when she was 6. We both understand what it means when someone starts a small business in their community. It means you're betting on your community. You need your community and you want your community to succeed. We've seen the McDonald's, or as you mentioned, the Popeyes, survive in abject poverty because they have an international business model. They don't care about the local economy. So the businesses in District 4, right, are just surviving, not thriving like they should be. And these are the businesses owned by people that look like us, that have a similar background as us, that have built this city. The tax revenue and the labor of the working class have built this city and have built the downtowns and have built the waterfronts, but they're not getting the same investment as in the North End or in other parts of the city. So one of the things I really want to advocate for is that. And then my last one is the environment. I call that my rondo because that's the point guard. And that's where intersectionality, we need green schools, we need solar panels on top of our schools, we need cooling stations, we need to really think about sustainability. So yes, thank you for this time. I look forward to having questions with you guys.
Questions for Joel? One question here. What are your plans to reduce the number of people experiencing homelessness in Boston?
I mean, I think that goes back to the housing crisis we're having right now. There's a lot of issues there. For example, there's teachers that I know, there's teachers working on my campaign that are in public housing paying $2,800, $2,600 a month because that's 30% of their income. We have a lot of empty lots and public land here in the city, and we need to start developing that public land for people, not for profit. We shouldn't be giving it away to developers. We should be making lotteries so that more working class people, more people that have built this city can actually own and live in this city. We also need to get creative with how we develop housing and apartments for rent, but we need to focus on 40% AMI when it comes to rental. That's average median income. That's between 36 to 63,000. But above that should be for working class people. We should be doing a lot more lotteries so that teachers, firemen, the working class people that go to work every day and run this city, the laborers, they can afford to buy in this city and stay in this city. Because as the pandemic proved, they are the real economic backbone of this city.
Thank you so much for being with us this evening, for answering the questions and for introducing yourself to the council. We hope that you can stay on the meeting and hear more about issues that the Common Square Neighborhood Council is concerned about. And there's your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Great. Moving along in the agenda, we have another District 4 Boston City Councilor candidate, Brian Worrell.
Good evening, everyone. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Awesome. Love the work that this civic engagement, civic association does in our community. It's this type of community building that we need more of throughout our district. Because this is how we create neighborhoods. This is how we advance people and bring the resources into the community. So thank you for all that you do, because this is the start of civic engagement, and this is how we create real change in our community. My name is Brian Worrell. I'm a candidate for Boston City Council District 4. I'm a lifelong Bostonian. Matter of fact, I lived in Dorchester my entire life. I'm a proud son of immigrants. Both my parents and grandparents migrated right here to District 4 with little to no means, no connections. And here I am in 2021 looking to bring those opportunities and resources to our community. I'm a MECO alumni. I went to Lincoln Sudbury from kindergarten to 12th grade, and also a Northeastern alumni. I graduated with a degree in accounting and entrepreneurship. I have over 10 years experience in facility management, and I'm also the proud owner of a Dorchester-based small business. I spent the last 20 years helping families create generational wealth through home ownership, small business development, and creating jobs. Small business was my solution to my environment. A kid from Dorchester with the lack of opportunities, I created opportunities. I believe that it's time for our city to increase opportunities, but also most importantly, show people how to grab hold of those opportunities. I provided opportunities by sponsoring individuals to become licensed professionals by paying for their classes, paying for their exams, providing tutoring, providing coaching, because I want to increase the exposure to sustainable jobs and fight displacement by empowering our community. I provided resources to homeowners experiencing financial hardships, tenants facing eviction, and help small businesses develop. I lived in Boston my entire life and come from very humble beginnings. My parents worked 2 to 3 jobs at a time just to survive. And it's unfortunate that this is still the reality for many families in our community. Some parts in our district, the median income is $29,000. It's hard enough to rent, much less own on that type of yearly salary. My grandparents, my parents, my two uncles, my aunt, my cousin, my 2 siblings and I all lived under one roof. But this instilled into me that it takes a village to raise a child, to support an individual, and to grow a community. I believe we need that village right here in District 4. I benefited from some of the great programs that the city of Boston has to offer. I probably would never have went to college without these programs. But the unfortunate thing about these programs is that they have a limited capacity. And I believe that opportunity for equity should not only be available for a select few, but opportunity needs to be the standard. My fight is for us, which includes quality education, affordable housing, pathways to home ownership, small business support and mental health support, sustainable jobs, and youth development. The most valuable asset in our community is us. This is why I believe we must invest in ourselves, from our youngest resident to our age-strong community, to create the outputs we desire. I've seen firsthand right here in the city of Boston how resources or the lack thereof can influence the path that individuals go down. I've had family members, friends, neighbors who have fell victim to gun violence, substance abuse, homelessness. And I think it's time that we must reimagine every institution, every department in local government, and envision the benefits we would reap if we expand the services to a community that's been overlooked, underserved, underinvested for far too long. It's going to take a village, someone who can create partnerships, recognize opportunities, unite a district, engage and inspire generations. I'm ready to bring this mindset and skill set to City Hall. Now is the time for new ideas, fresh perspectives, and most importantly, action. Underserved, underinvested, surviving, displaced, 2 to 3 jobs, gun violence are words we will work to remove from how we describe our community. And we will replace them with safe, vibrant, affordable, and thriving. I respectfully ask for your support, your prayers, and on September 14th, your vote. And we're a campaign of not just ideas, but of action. I've organized mobile vaccination sites where I got over 400 people vaccinated back in March. I deliver food twice a month to people experiencing financial hardships. And we're just looking to do more. With your help, we can do that. And it's all about being accessible and engaging. So I'm looking forward to answering and hearing any questions that you guys may have.
Thanks, Brian. You have a little over a minute. Questions for Brian? I know that Boston has an incredible homeless problem, and everyone is aware. What is your plan to address this huge problem? They need affordable housing with resources to address mental health. I've yet to hear a plan to get them housed and serviced. Less than a minute.
Yeah. Yep. So I've actually worked with Rapid Housing through Boston Housing, and I've had homes housed some of these homeless people that we're speaking of. I think we also need to not only look to Boston, but other surrounding towns, our neighboring towns, to see if we could work with landlords and other property managers to house the homeless. I also believe those vacant lots, the District 4 has the most vacant city lots. And I believe that by the city actually created 100% affordable housing to shelter some of our homeless population is something that we should be looking forward to doing. And I'll be advocating for it.
Excellent. And that is your time. Thank you so much, Brian. You can continue.
All right. Thank you so much for your time.
Great. You can continue to answer questions that may come in the chat. Moving along in the agenda, we will now hear from Boston City Councilor at Large candidate Carla Montero.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Hi, Cynthia. Thank you, everyone, for having me. I'm so grateful to be here. My brother used to work for the farmers market, and we spent some summers watching movies in Climate Square Park, in Climate Square. So happy to be here. Again, my name is Carla Montero. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm running for Boston City Councilor at Large. I am the daughter of Cape Verdean immigrants, a mom, a social worker, a Dorchester native, and a community advocate. Growing up in Dorchester, I lost a lot of friends to gun violence in the prison system. And at the age of 4, my family was evicted from our apartment. And as a teenager, became a mom at the age of 19, experienced food insecurities, was on the brink of homelessness, and depended on welfare to survive. So I know what it's like to have food stamps decrease, have your daycare fees go up if you work a little overtime. I was fortunate to be able to use some city programs like the Home Buyers Program, also using nonprofits like Dress for Success and Jewish Vocational Services for job training, and was able to purchase a triple decker right here in Dorchester and move my whole family into my 3rd floor. As a community member, I have been very active. I have been able to access resources and also bring them into our communities. And so I use myself as an example. I was able to return to college 14 years after graduating from high school and was able to achieve my goals. And without the services in Boston, I wouldn't have been able to achieve those goals. And so I believe in a Boston where if people's basic needs are met, people can thrive. And as a community member, I have I have been a member of the COVID task force through Brigham and Women's Hospital. I have delivered food, PPE, and other essential items to people who are most vulnerable in our community. And as a social worker, I work daily with the clients, and I see a lot of the gaps in services that I experienced all those years ago. And so my campaign is focused on meeting the basic needs of residents. And that includes ensuring that families are on a pathway to housing security rather than a pathway to displacement, ensuring that families are on investing in equitable education, and making sure that every child in Boston is set on a more prosperous track for a more prosperous future. And that includes making sure that we are investing in hiring more social workers in schools and more, so that they're doing more social emotional learning, teaching kids how to deal with anger and other emotions, so that we are teaching them how to help themselves return to baseline, so we can try to decrease some of the violence in the city of Boston. Also providing wraparound services for people with mental illness and substance use disorder, rather than stigmatizing and isolating them. And in this competitive field, I bring a unique experience in perspective in terms of my lived experience and my professional background as a social worker. I know the issues that Boston residents face every day, from the pain of housing insecurity, the trauma of gun violence, environmental racism, and the stigmatization of mental illness. I've overcome those same challenges. And like our Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley says, those closest to the pain should be closest to the power. We should be driving and informing the policies. And that's what my campaign is all about. What has made me a successful social worker will make me an effective city councilor, and that is listening, identifying needs, and connecting people to services. I'm excited for the opportunity to connect with all of you tonight. I hope to earn one of your 4 votes, and I will put my information in the chat so you can learn more about me, but happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much, Carla. There's a question here. What do you think needs to be done to eliminate the school to prison pipeline? And if elected, what do you plan to do to tackle this problem?
I think there's a lot that we need to do. I think we need to, foster better, positive relationships with our police departments, so that we are hiring students, hiring kids from our own communities into our police departments. I think it's also important that, it does take a village to raise children. And so it's all of our responsibilities, whether we're teachers, whether we're the crossing guard, so I think that there's a lot of work to be done all around, but all stakeholders have to be involved so that we can make this happen. I think, having more social workers in school and helping parents, and also, teaching parents where these resources are. When I was growing up, I didn't really go to a lot of community centers because my mom didn't know that they existed. My brothers didn't play sports. You know, we just didn't know that these resources were available. So I want to make sure that we are communicating more with residents so that they know what is available, and working with teachers, and, you know, would like to create a better pipeline for people in our communities to go to school to become social workers. You know, we have a shortage of African-American social workers in our communities, and also, you know, creating more equitable access for people in our neighborhoods to obtain degrees to become teachers and all this. So I think there's a lot of different things that are interconnected that we can do to stop the school to prison pipeline.
1 minute left. Is there a community process around putting sober homes or houses in residential neighborhoods, or how would you address this?
There should be. You know, I know that there's been a lot of issues with the zoning board where different things are being approved and not always, you know, I guess done the right way, I should say. So I think there are some challenges and some things that we need to work through. You know, I think that, you know, people in our communities, obviously, you know, we're all impacted by substance use, you know, in some way, whether it's a family member or someone who is experiencing them, or, you know, seeing people in our communities who have this lived experience. But we also have to approach this from a humane, you know, a perspective, understanding that this could be anyone, this could be anyone's family member. And so, you know, we want to handle this with compassion, so that we are giving people resources, but also making sure that all of our neighbors are comfortable where they're living as well.
Excellent. And that is time. Thank you for your presentation and for
Thank you so
sharing
much.
with us. I encourage you to stay on the meeting so you can hear about other concerns in Codman Square.
We will. Thank you so much.
Moving along in the agenda, we will now hear from Boston City Councilor at Large candidate David Halbert.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here. My name is David Halbert, and I'm running to be one of your 4 city councilors at large. And the reason that I'm running is simple. I think Boston is an incredible city full of opportunities, but I know from working at City Hall on the city council that I can tell you that this city's opportunities aren't shared equally by everyone. And you need to have individuals who bring a different perspective and a different representation to the table at city government in order to make that happen and allow us to take our values and turn our values into real practical policies that help people on the ground. The kind of policies that affirm that housing should be a human right in the city of Boston, and that we need to make a space for everyone to be able to stay here. And so that when you grow a family, you don't have to grow your way out of the city. That we have economic opportunity for everyone, that we uplift our small business sector because it is so critical. It gives many of our immigrant communities, as you've heard earlier this evening, those first steps towards achieving the American dream. And for individuals who are returning to our communities from incarceration, it's often those small businesses led by people in our communities that give them the second chance to invest in themselves, their families, and our community as a whole. And we have to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to protect our future. And that means advocating for educational equity throughout the city of Boston, making sure that every child, all 50,000 plus, including my own daughters, who are BPS students themselves, have a high quality school in their own backyard so that you don't have to put a child on a bus and send them all the way across the city just to get a good education. Though you know, as a parent, you will if that's the only option you think that you have. We can do these things and so much more. We can address the issues that are facing the city by the global and existential threat of climate change. We can make sure that we're doing the big things that this job demands, having those big ideas that are going to be transformative for the city and its future, but also, and once again, going back to the fact that I've done this work on the city council as a staff member, knowing that you have to do the small things just as well. You have to be at the meetings. You have to make sure potholes get filled. You have to make sure trash gets picked up and streetlights get fixed. You have to be able to do both of those things, the big ideas and those small quality of life issues, if you're going to do this job effectively. It isn't theory to me. It isn't an idea. It's the work that I've done. With a career of over 15 years in public service, it's been the work of my life. And that's why I'm so excited to have the opportunity to talk to folks all across the city about what the future of the city looks like. That's why I ask every single person I interact with, what are the issues that are important to you? So we can make sure that we're communicating, that we're working not just as a counselor or as a candidate, but as a partner, not just in building the kind of Boston that we want, but the kind of Boston that we deserve. And as your neighbor sitting over here on the other side of Dorchester, someone who comes to Codman Square often, has had these conversations in the Great Hall typically, and I look forward to the opportunity to get back there in person with each and every one of you. It's unquestionable and unconscionable that we're still having so many of the same fights and conversations about what development should look like in the community, what the community has asked for repeatedly. Because when folks feel like they're not being listened to, that's where we plant the seeds of cynicism. And it's beyond every one of us, those of us who seek public office in particular, to make sure that we're giving you a reason to believe in government, to believe that it can do something good in your life, and to believe that it can be a force to make this city the kind of city that we want. And once again, the city that we deserve. So I'm asking for one of your 4 votes on September 14th, the number 7 on your ballot. I hope you'll take a moment and go to our website, David, the number 4, Boston.com. Follow us on social media at Vote Halbert. And most importantly, please stay in communication so we can build that kind of Boston we deserve.
Thank you, David. Questions? You heard our presentation earlier about the major health inequities we face in our community because of our built environment, because of the lack of healthy options in our merchants district. What is your plan to ensure that neighborhoods like ours, and of course ours, see the change we want to see so that we have access to healthy options in our merchants district?
Absolutely. It's a couple things. The first is listening. As I said, this is one of the reasons we have a community input form on our campaign website, because we want to hear what the community is saying. But it's also making sure that we're putting the resources behind it. Where you spend your time and where you spend your money shows what you care about. So if we care about it, we're going to spend the time to listen to the community, and we're going to spend the money to support those small businesses, making sure that we have incubator spaces, sure that we're doing everything that we can to promote the work of our Main Streets districts. I live here in Dorchester and have proudly for the last 3 years, but before that, I spent my first 14 years in the city in East Boston. And I still serve on the East Boston Main Streets Board because I believe in small business. I believe in the connections to our communities. So it's making sure that we're investing and understanding that what we're going to need to do in every district in the city is a little bit different because of the circumstances on the ground. How we're going to bring businesses back and bring more business vitality to Newbury Street looks different than it does on the Codman Square section of Washington Street. We need to be honest about that, making sure that we're having that investment, but also making sure that we're holding folks to account in terms of those investments around equity and using the levers that we have from city government. The city of Boston spends millions of dollars every year. We need to be making sure that we're investing and spending those dollars every opportunity that we have in our own backyard, with our own people, on our own businesses. It's unconscionable, once again, that we spent less than 2% with Black businesses in the city out of those millions of dollars. So we need to have folks who are sitting there being watchdogs about that and making sure that we're holding the city to account and being an example of the kind of behaviors that we want to see.
Thank you, David. Other questions or comments for David? You have 40 seconds left. If there's one thing in the zoning code that you would change, what would it be? 30 seconds.
It wouldn't be the zoning code, it would be the zoning board and the overall planning process. And that's why I've advocated for the split up of the Boston Planning and Development Agency into 2 separate constituent agencies, one focused on planning, one focused on economic development, because as many folks who've been a part of this group and meetings for far too long have found, economic development overruns good planning often. And that's one of those reasons that people feel cynical about what government's doing, and understanding that their neighborhood often feels like an afterthought to developers' pockets. So we have to make sure that we're having real intentional conversation, and most importantly, good processes.
Excellent. And that is your time.
Thank you all so much. Appreciate being here.
Thank you. We encourage you to stay on for the rest of the meeting to hear all the issues that Codman Square cares about. Moving along in the agenda, we will now hear from mayoral candidate Michele Wu.
Good evening, everyone. Hi, Cynthia. Hi, everyone. I loved getting the chance to hear a little bit about all of our amazing city councilors, candidates plans as well. Thank you so much. I'm sorry I joined late. Cynthia, what's the time situation look like? How much time do we have?
You get 6 minutes for your presentation and for questions.
Okay, perfect. I'll try to go short on presentations and use most of it for getting to listen and engage. I am so excited to be back with you all. It's been a fun summer in Codman Square, lots of events in the parks and all around. I've gotten to see folks here and there. I am now in my 11.5 month of running for mayor, 13 days to go until the prelim at this point. But for my team and me, this was not about a political opportunity. This was not about the odds of any situation. It was about this moment in Boston and how important it is that our city steps up to meet the moment. We have a legacy in Boston of fighting the important fights and leading the charge across the country when it really matters. And if there's anything we've seen coming out of the pandemic, it is just how interconnected each one of us is to each other and our communities, and what's possible when we truly decide to lean in and confront our challenges head on. And so I'm running to continue to build on the coalitions and the progress that we've seen. Proud of my track record of having delivered much of the legislation and many of the major steps in city government that have brought more people into the process. Paid parental leave for city workers, language access and communications access that I see my colleague, Councilor Mejia, has now boosted to a whole new level with recent updates to legislation, and so excited, and congratulations to her for that advancement. We've moved forward on equity in city contracting, requiring accountability for the very issue that Dave Halbert was just talking about. We wouldn't have had these numbers if not for an ordinance that I've been proud to write and pass in partnership with then Councilor Ayanna Pressley years ago. We are in a moment where the decisions we make now in the next 3 to 5 years will shape the next 3 to 5 generations. I'm a mom with 2 kids in BPS. We're very excited for them to start school next week. They're 4 and 6. And I live in a multi-generational household with my mom, who has been living with mental illness. And it was the reason why I got into government, having raised my sisters and seen the challenges and experienced the gaps that our city faces. But having been in City Hall for 10 years now, I know what's possible. And I know that that is possible only if all of our voices are at the table. So very respectfully ask for your vote. 13 days to go until the preliminary election, early voting kicking off this Saturday. And we're so grateful for all of you for making sure you are continuing to build community and lead the way in Codman Square.
Great, thank you, Michele. Questions for Michele Wu? As a Boston native, it is extremely important to me that the next mayor of Boston be a person who is committed to the role for the long term. If you are elected as mayor, what is your long-term vision, 10 to 20 years for the city of Boston? And how will you combat the spread of COVID-19 and its social and economic impact?
Thank you so much for that question. You know, I talk about this a lot on the campaign trail because we often in politics and government are just focused on what's right in front of us, right? An article about something, oh, we're going to announce a response, a press conference on something, an election coming up. Okay, what should I say that I did? But when you look at the big issues that Boston is facing, these are not only generations and decades in the making, but also in many cases, actions that we take now may not have impact, or we may not see the impact until later. But that puts all the more urgency right now. I'm talking in one example is climate change. We know that the most recent reports internationally have shown, even if we did every possible thing, took every step today, it will still be 20 years before temperatures stabilize. And we see some of this extreme weather and all the impacts that Boston has faced starting to level off. My boys are 4 and 6. I'm going to fight to make sure that when they are 24 and 26, we have done every possible thing that we could right now to give them and all of our kids and grandkids the best possible future. So my vision in the long term is that Boston is a city of opportunity, of stability. We need housing that's connected with transportation, clean air and water that's connected to our climate safety and security, and jobs of the future. If you ask all the big companies in Boston today, the jobs they're hiring for aren't what you would think of based on what they do. All the jobs that can be from around the world, others are doing. What we need now in Boston, in many cases, are connections to tech, connections to the innovation economy, connections to arts and the creative economy, the green and climate resiliency and infrastructure that we need. And so we should be aligning our school system, our vocational education, all of the pathways to make sure that Boston is planning exactly for this time frame and beyond. COVID-19 has a huge impact on that. It's similar where the actions we take and the protections we put in place, you see the curves start to reflect that weeks and months down the line, which has made it hard because there's not that instant gratification. But as a mom, I'm constantly thinking about not only what my kids need right now to be fed and clean and happy and healthy, but what world we're creating for them. And we need that short-term and very long-term approach. So I really appreciate this question.
With only 40,
I'll put my website in, which has more plans that have more details too.
With only 40 seconds left, how do you plan to effectively engage residents in the development process in the city of Boston? Oftentimes we feel like we participate, we volunteer our time, and then our voice is not heard.
Yep, it's broken. Boston sticks out as a city with the most complex, arbitrary political system Our zoning code is so badly outdated. We don't have a separate planning agency. So I'm in fact the only candidate who said we need deep reforms. I would restructure our agency to do that, build in planning to update the rules so that we're not locked in these unnecessary conflicts that are very myopic and short term. We need to be planning for the long term. And that means taking into account residents upfront, shaping the rules so that we have a clear, predictable standard for everyone.
Excellent. And that is time. Michele, thank you for being with us this evening. I encourage you to stay on, hear the concerns of Codman Square. And also the candidates have been answering additional questions in the chat. So feel free to do that as well. This was really great. We really appreciate you guys being with us. It's so important to know the candidates. I'm going to share my screen once again. Just a reminder, Tuesday, September 14th is the preliminary municipal election. Tuesday, November 2nd is the municipal election. We need to know who is running, what their priorities are, to ensure that they care about Codman Square, to ensure they care about us, our families, and have a true vision for our neighborhood and the entire city. Again, the mayoral candidates are here. Make sure you get to know them. Visit our YouTube channel to see previous presentations from some of these candidates. And then, of course, you met some of them this evening. These are the at-large candidates, the 17 at-large candidates. Again, take your time, do your research. We want to make sure our vote counts. We're voting for people that care about our families and our community. And lastly, these are the District 4 candidates. This meeting will be posted on YouTube so that you can revisit it. And again, view our previous meetings so that you have an understanding of who else has taken the time to spend time with us in Codman Square and at our community meetings. Moving along in the agenda, we are now going to hear from Mike. Just quick background, if you guys don't know, the Codman Square Library branch is going through a study. Basically, we're trying to determine the future of the branch. The city is ready to invest dollars in our branch. Much of the discussion and the community meetings have been focused on renovations and the possibility of a new building and really how to enhance and improve the branch. So this is just a quick summary from the community meetings with regards to the phases, the timeline, the typical project schedule.
Yeah.
And just a quick review. These are some of the spaces we've been talking about, like reimagining some of the spaces in our branch. And we've even talked about the outdoor space. With that said, I'm now going to hand it off to Mike to talk a little bit about the study as a whole, but then also the air pollution we need to be worried about and buildings in general, old buildings, new buildings in our community. So let me just stop my share and hand it off to Mike.
Great.
Hi, Mike.
Thank you, Cynthia. Can I share my screen?
Yes. I'm making you a co-host now.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay. So the city is making over all of the libraries in the city one by one, and it's our turn now. They are talking about either renovating, adding to, or replacing, completely tearing down and replacing the library. And so the question is, what do we on the neighborhood council in the neighborhood want to see, and particularly in terms of health, because as Joel Richards pointed out, buildings and health are closely related. So here's the library part. Cynthia talked about some of it.
We don't see your screen, Mike.
Well, let's try this again. Is that any better?
Great.
Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, good. So the city has held 2 online meetings to get our input. Many of us have participated in those. There are a lot of great ideas. If we had more time, I'd ask people what they've heard and what they've contributed. There's an online survey that is still open, and I'll post that link on the chat. There's another meeting coming up this fall. A date hasn't been announced. And at some point soon, they will lay out alternative designs for either renovating the building, adding to it, or replacing it. Here's where we're at in terms of the schedule. So you can see they're still taking input. And then in this section, they're going to come up with some alternatives for us to look at. The question that's come up is, what's the health part of this? 2/3 of Boston's greenhouse gas pollution comes from the buildings, not from cars, not from other sources, but buildings are the big, like the big gorilla in the room when it comes to climate change and to our health, because buildings, we're burning energy to heat our buildings, to cool them, to heat water, and in Massachusetts, statewide, that means about 749 early deaths every year and over $8 billion in health costs, which could be avoided if our buildings were clean, if they used less energy, if they were better insulated. And in terms of new buildings, potentially the library, if they didn't tear down buildings but adapted them, because there's a lot of carbon, there's a lot of fossil fuel energy already built into buildings, 20 to 50%, up to half of the building's lifetime carbon emissions are already in the building. And here are some of the ways that happens. If you tear down a building and replace it, you demolish it, you transport the waste, you either recycle it, or put it in a landfill. Then you need to extract new raw materials, transport them to a factory, manufacture things like cement and steel, transport that to the site, construct the building, and then this is the part that we think of as building energy. Heating and cooling it, maintaining and retrofitting it. But this part, the part that's built into the building, can be up to half of the carbon footprint. And more important, you're going to see that impact right away. And right away is when we need to bring down carbon emissions if we're not going to have a global climate disaster, if we're not going to cook the planet. And then the third way is if you are doing new construction, you can avoid using things like concrete, which is 7% of total global climate emissions. Steel, imagine the heat and energy that it takes to make steel, spray foams. Instead, you want to use materials like wood that pull carbon out of the air when we create them. So there are a lot of ways that the city could make the new library much healthier for us, cause less asthma, cause less heat events, extreme heat, which is dangerous, particularly to seniors and young people. Less flooding, less extreme weather of the sort that we've seen this summer. We may not see wildfires, but we're going to see, like out west, but we're going to see and already seeing droughts and rain and extreme rainstorms. So what do we need? Besides a great new library, we need to avoid contributing to the climate crisis and the extreme heat, the violent weather, the asthma, and the other effects of climate change. So we need public buildings that are as clean and green as possible, that are healthier for their users, and that stand up better in extreme weather. What can we do? As individuals, we can attend the next library meeting when that gets scheduled. I think the neighborhood council will publicize that. You can also fill out the online library survey at this web address, and I'll post that in the chat. As a council, what we could do, and we need your input whether to do this, is that we could send a letter to the city, to the people who are running this project, saying we want an energy efficient building for these reasons. We want you to reuse the existing building, not tear it down, because that could be half of the global climate impact of the building, particularly in the near term. If you're using new materials, use those that pull carbon out of the air instead of adding to the problem. And we want to make the library and all libraries a green example for the neighborhood and the city. So I'll stop there. I'd love to hear what people think.
Thank you, Mike. Questions or comments? You all know that here at the Codman Square Neighborhood Council, we care deeply about sustainable design and sustainable buildings. So it's so important for us to be on top of this, be engaged in this process, be a part of this study, and make sure that's heard every step of the way. So Mike, we really appreciate your leadership in doing that. Any chance to add solar on top of the new branch?
Why not? They're talking about adding housing on top. It's a lot easier to put solar on top, or both.
Any other questions or comments for Mike? Yes, please put that link in the chat. And we want to continue this conversation. We want to think big. It'd be nice if we had the best branch in the city of Boston, and there is opportunity to do that. There's another question here. Does the current library still have raised beds in the back for growing?
Yes, I think they're still there. The beds are still there. Whether they're being farmed or not, I'm not sure.
And in the meetings that we've been to, the community has been very vocal about maintaining green space and ensuring that that's not compromised or reduced in any way, if anything expanded. This is great. So stay tuned. Mike will put the link in the chat. Be a part of the study. Take part in the upcoming meetings. Stay involved with the Neighborhood Council, and we'll try to make sure we keep pushing this environmental agenda, because no matter what we're doing, we need to make sure we have sustainable design and a sustainable building.
Great.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, everybody.
Moving along in the agenda is Lynn on from the Codman Square Neighborhood Development Corporation. Lynn's supposed to share the Buy Codman Square campaign with us.
Yep, I'm here.
Great, thank you.
Great. Can I share my screen? Yeah. Oh, well, hi, everyone. I'm Lynn Sanders. I'm the Director of Economic Development for Codman Square Neighborhood Development Corporation. And here to, as Cynthia said, tell you all about the Buy Codman campaign that we are sponsoring. I'm just gonna share my screen. So this is a new initiative that we've rolled out over the last couple of weeks, and trying to encourage folks to, as we come out of the COVID-19 pandemic, albeit slowly and with setbacks now, but encouraging folks to be shopping at local businesses, supporting our local businesses. We know they were greatly impacted by the pandemic, as we all have been. So this campaign was supported by a grant from the Sasaki Foundation, and we are working with the local businesses listed here, and we're open to welcoming other local businesses to join too. This campaign is, we have loyalty cards, kind of like if you, I think normally see them in coffee shops. When you buy a coffee, you get a stamp. And this is, you spend $10 at a Codman Square business, participating business. They have a loyalty card and you get a stamp. And those loyalty cards translate to all the participating businesses. So anytime you spend $10 at one of the businesses, you can get a stamp. And once you get 10 stamps, you can bring it to us at Codman Square NDC and get a $25 Visa gift card, which we hope you'll spend back at the small businesses in Codman Square. That's pretty much it. We hope you will take advantage of this and go to the businesses, get a card, get stamps, and I hope I will see you to come get your gift cards in the near future.
This is great, Lynn. Use the reaction tool to let me know if you guys are familiar with Be Local, the city campaign, because this sounds similar to the Be Local campaign, but it's for Codman Square. So that's wonderful.
Yeah, we were actually talking about being able to replicate the Be Local, and we don't, in terms of like standing up a technology platform, we didn't really have the bandwidth to do that. And also this is kind of like just a lot more user friendly for a lot of businesses that might not be as tech savvy. That I know it has been hard for some businesses to sign up for that. So yeah, and thanks.
Excellent. Any questions or comments for Lynn? No. Can you provide a link for us just to learn more, or how do we get in touch with you?
Yes, so there is an email address. Yeah, I'll put my email in the email. There's an email that's by Codman at csndc.com. I think it is still in process to get this up on our website, but if you contact me, I can give you the info, and also you can go to, it's over 26 of the businesses in Codman Square are participating. So they should have the flyers up in their stores too with the information.
Excellent. This is great. I'm happy to see so many businesses participating. And thank you for the link. If there are no other questions or comments, we'll move on in the agenda. We will now hear more about the proposal for the 3-family at 9 Joseph Street.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I know it's been a busy night, so I'll try to make this quick. My name is Matt Mueller. I'm an architect representing Jamal Uddin. He lives at 9 Joseph Street. Currently, it's a 3-family, and he's trying to add a little bit of space for his growing family. So we're adding space to the attic unit, and we're renovating the basement so that he can have more space for his family, who currently lives in the first floor unit. So you can see on this first page, this is an existing site plan and a proposed site plan. It's pretty much the same in terms of the building footprint. The only thing we're doing to the side is adding a new deck on the back and renovating the entrance to the basement unit. This is a quick look at the layout. So currently the basement's unrenovated. We're going to connect it to the first floor with a spiral staircase and add a recreation room, a bedroom, and an office. We're not doing anything to his unit that he lives in now, except for adding that staircase. And then the second floor unit, we're doing some renovations, adding an extra bedroom, adding an extra bathroom. And then the biggest change is in the top floor. We're adding some dormers to create more space, and we're turning that into a 2-bedroom, 2-bath unit. You can see from the elevations, we're adding dormers on the roof to add that space to that upper unit. Our goal is to keep the front of the facade pretty much as is, because there's a repetition in the kind of housing on that street. We want to keep it harmonious with the neighbors. So we're setting those dormers back and keeping that front sort of gabled dormer the same. This is just a quick look at the existing. The basement's got a bunch of mechanical and storage space. And the attic you can see is much smaller. There's a living room and a bedroom up there, but we're extending that out and back. And then this is just a look at the existing elevation. So you can see there's a big deck on the top right now. We're basically extending that roof over. As I said, we're keeping the front of the facade the same, and we're adding a deck on the back. And those are the main changes that we're doing. And we hope, on behalf of Jamal, I hope you guys will support this. He's been in the neighborhood a while. He's got a growing family. And I think this is a pretty practical addition to his home. So if there's any questions or comments, I'll be happy to hear.
Thank you. Marilyn would like a better understanding of where Joseph Street is located.
Well, let me see if I can pull up a map.
It's right off of Brent Street, Maryland. So right at the corner of Brent and Joseph, right by the basketball court to Dr. Loesch Family Park.
Right, there's that big park right there. So it's right near there.
Other questions? Where is the owner in the process?
You mean, where are we in terms of zoning?
Yes.
So we've met with the abutters. There seemed to be full support. We've had some input from the St. Mark's community group, and they're supporting. And if there's no questions or anything with this group, we'll move forward to the zoning hearing to ask for approval.
And how many neighbors showed up at the abutters meeting?
It was pretty small. There's a few, I think 2 or 3.
And the last question I see here is, so the home is owner occupied?
It is owner occupied, yes. Owner lives on the first floor, and he wants to expand to that basement.
Erica Davis, will there be parking?
Currently, there's no parking and there's no space really on the site to add parking. So, but we're not really adding any units. It's currently a three unit, and we're just expanding those units. So it's not like we're adding another unit to add more parking to the street.
And Sean is asking, how many units in total? Is there?
Three units total.
There's 3 existing units and there's no change to that.
Yes. So currently the top 2 floors, technically it's a 3-family, but it's kind of being used as a big unit. So we're just going to formalize that and make that top floor into its own unit.
Any other questions or comments? Great, thank you for your presentation, and you'll hear from us.
Okay, thank you guys, and have a good night.
You too. Moving along in the agenda, we will now hear from our elected officials. Let me just check if Rep. Holmes is on. There he is, Rep. Holmes. Rep. Holmes is on, but before we hear from Rep. Holmes, is there anyone that wants to speak on behalf of an office or an elected official? If not, I'll hand it off to Rep. Holmes.
Thank you, Cynthia, for doing that, because it's important to at least hear from other folks. I noticed when I got back, I'm on day 1 back from vacation. So top of my list, Devin had the meeting for the 2 cannabis dispensaries that you and I had talked about, and I noted that Jeff Smillian was on the phone call. So hopefully you can give me a little bit more framework on when you would like me to have it done. Jeff and the other team have both said yes to having a meeting to make sure that Common Square understood that both could potentially be there, and as they go through the process. Did you want that to happen? I was asking Devin, did you just want us to do a separate meeting, separate from the normal Common Square meeting, which is because this meeting is always so packed? I didn't know exactly what did you want me to say to them for when you were trying to do it.
We were thinking October 13th at 6:30 p.m.
You weren't just thinking, you had a date, October
Yes.
13th at 6:30. Jeff's on the line now, so at least Jeff would get. I think Jeff is. I saw Jeff on the in the list of folks who are on the line. So let's see if that would work. And you want to do it at the Great Hall, or what were you thinking?
At this time, still virtual.
Oh, so just virtual. Okay.
Yeah. For background, you guys, just so you know, we have 2 cannabis dispensaries proposed for Washington Street within feet of each other. They've been approved at the city level. They're in the process of getting their state approval. Of course, Common Square does not want 2 dispensaries, but that's what's happening. And so Rep. Holmes has been helping us navigate the process, and he's willing to coordinate a meeting with the 2 applicants so we can figure out.
They both have said yes.
Yes.
So now we just have to figure out when.
Exactly. What that looks like for Codman Square. This is a new industry, and we're just trying to figure out what that looks like for our merchants district to make sure everyone's being a good neighbor, and we're just navigating the process.
So I think the big thing too would be just to make sure we know what the questions are. I think you were asking me before, what does it look like from them competing with each other? What does it mean for community benefits? Are they going to still both hold up to both ends of the community bargain that they said that they would have? Those are primarily the types of things that you guys were asking. And I think both knew that this would be coming. So I think that would be easy. So if Jeff's on the line, if he can give us a thumbs up, or maybe if that would work for him on that date, I can call the other team and find out. But
that should work.
I
said that should work for me. How's everybody doing? Jeff Smith.
Doing excellent.
Happy to see you on the meeting, Jeff.
He's doing the right thing, being here every month. That's a good thing to be. Good to hear you, Jeff. Hope everything's well. So I'll call the other group and see if that would work. And so let me lead right in, because I know how short my time is. I may only have 6 minutes. Let me just kind of go right back into what you were just saying about everything is virtual, and lead to the first thing I want to kind of chat about, and that is vaccines and COVID. I can just tell you, just from a state perspective, we have literally, I feel like, thrown everything we can at this, from even the lotteries. Obviously we had the 5 winners of the lotteries. I thought it was important for me just to let you guys just pretty much know my position. My position at this point is, you need to give me a reason for not being vaccinated. And so if somebody, I know some folks won't take kindly to this, but if you're gonna go to school and you've been vaccinated for everything else in the world, why not be vaccinated now? So if you have a health issue, if you have a religious issue, my position has simply been, or it's simply now, from a state perspective, we've vaccinated almost 64%, well, a little bit more than 64% of the people in this Commonwealth. A few folks who have not been in that, of that 36, obviously, are those people who are 12 and younger. Obviously, we're doing everything we can for trying to encourage folks to get vaccinated at schools, at work. And so now that we've had the federal approval, that now it's not an emergency approval, it's actually an approval, I am hard pressed to find, as I said in my office, obviously the mayor put the mask mandates on for even in our offices. So my position pretty firmly now is, and if you're angry with me, I apologize, but it is, please tell me why you're not vaccinated, because you're putting us all at risk. And so if there is a question about whether or not I'm going to be supportive of some type of mandated vaccination for basically anything, schools, for hospital workers, certainly my early education teachers, all of those places of that nature, just know I'm going to fall on the side of, please get vaccinated. I think we've done all we can. I'll take a question on that, but I at least want to make sure folks know I pretty much have given up where we're now about to approach, or even had hit over 600 people, again, hospitalized over the last weekend. We're going in absolutely the wrong direction. And I cannot stand folks talking about, oh, how we're, doing so great relative to other states. That is not the point. We are Massachusetts, we are educated, and we should not be thinking not vaccination. I'll take a question on that. I know that's kind of a hard position. Some people may not like it. Anybody want to give me something on that one? Okay, then move on. Okay, next, as you guys may have seen yesterday, the mayor did put some things in place around evictions. Please, I can tell you there's been a major push at the state level on the other side of this from the small property owners who've said, hey, there are obviously millions of dollars available to folks who may be still struggling with evictions and potentially being evicted. I still say, let us all, if you know someone who is struggling financially and not paying their rent, please know it takes both. It's going to take the owner of the property and the person who may be renting to make sure we make them both whole. There are Ayanna and all the federal folks have made funds available. We have been pushing out those funds pretty hard here at the state level, but let us get folks back current on their rents so that we can eliminate this problem. So when I get all of these folks coming to me who are landlords saying we should not continue this moratorium on evictions, we really don't need to if we can make sure folks get their names into the pipelines and get through that process. So I just want to say again, in this call, Ayanna, federal folks have made an enormous amount of funds available. They are available through the state level. Let us, if you don't know about those funds and you know someone who needs help paying their back rent, please let us know as soon as possible. Now, let me just say one other thing.
There's a question in the chat. What are options for people who would like to get vaccinated but do not have sick time or paid leave at work?
Options for those who want to get vaccinated, there are the only times that you can be vaccinated when you're at work. We've made it so that essentially you can be vaccinated morning, noon, and night at this point. So tell me more to that question. So you're not able to do it at the evening, you're not able to do it in the morning. There are many, many options. Vaccinations are free at CVS, Walgreens, and anywhere else they would like to go. Who asked the question? Say it again for me.
Shanika?
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight there are currently employers in Massachusetts are required to give a certain amount of paid leave for vaccination. And that will be in a, so I just wanted to highlight that. So even if a person doesn't have paid or sick time at work, there's a law, the mass COVID paid sick leave, that requires employers to provide leave. So that can't be an excuse, or if that is a concern, your employer is required to give you paid sick leave. So I just wanted to highlight that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Shanika.
I find, quite frankly, Shanika, my point is, anyway, thank you for doing that, because I just don't understand. If someone has a challenge, please let us know what that is. We tried our best in every way to make it so that we removed all barriers. I know you're going to kick me off. Let me just say one more thing, because there's so many things tonight about elections. Can I just say, all of us are very active people. I anticipate all of us are going to show up and vote, but still we're approaching another primary election. And I think Bill Wozniak sent out an article here in the last hour or something. Let's not let so few of us make the decision. Let us encourage every family member we know, every friend we know to show up, because continually people think that it's the general election that's the more important election. Oh, we'll show up in November. The game is over most times in September, particularly here in Boston. We decide, obviously not in all cases here, we're going to get down to 2 in some cases, but we decide most of our decisions are made obviously in the preliminary. So please don't just assume that your friends are going to show up and your family members are going to show up. Please encourage everyone to show up. We cannot continue to have 13, 14% of our city deciding everything. And finally, redistricting meetings are happening. I know I talked about it last time. We come up with our new districts here at the state level in the coming weeks. Please follow those meetings, and please follow any meetings that I send to Cynthia that she talks about still the $4.9 billion that we in the legislature still have to decide what we're spending from the summer relief money. Sorry if I went over, but thanks anyway.
Thank you so much, Rep. Holmes, and we really appreciate you being with us every month, making sure that we're in the loop and up to date with everything taking place. I just want to reiterate your point. September 14th, remind your friends, your family members, your neighbors. We need to make sure our vote counts, and we have to get out there. On that note, I just want to add that once Rep. Holmes sets the meeting, we have Jeff's commitment, but we need to get the other participants' commitment. Once that happens, then we will share that meeting with all of the other civic groups as well. So it'll be an inclusive meeting for everyone, but we just want to get it scheduled first, and then we'll share it.
Let me call Cheryl now while you're doing your last 10 minutes and see what that date might sound like. And I'll get right back to you.
Excellent. I love the
Thanks.
multitasking, always working hard for us, Rep. Holmes. We appreciate you.
All right. I'm gonna go off camera.
Great, thank you. We are now just going to move into announcements. I appreciate your patience with my son. He likes to participate in the community meetings. Again, the Codman Square Neighborhood Council has the Codman Square Farmers Market on Saturdays from 11 to 2 at the Codman Square Park. Make sure you join us. This Saturday will be focused on local art and artists. It's going to be a fun market. As a reminder, we have yoga in the park at Dr. Loesch Family Park on Mondays from 6:30 to 7:30. And our next meeting is October 6th, same time, same place. Are there other announcements that people would like to share?
Cynthia, I just want to remind everyone of the gospel concert on September 11th at the Dr. Loesch Family Park from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. So it's a free gospel concert. Come out, bring a chair, bring your family members, and just enjoy the local talent and music that will be provided.
Thank you, Marilyn. Any other announcements? No? Okay. I want to thank you all for your time and for your attention. I want to thank your families for sharing you with us this evening. Please make sure that you spread the word about September 14th. Visit our YouTube channel to learn more about the different candidates that have presented to the Codman Square community. Make sure you're making an informed decision on September 14th. And I will see you all next month, same time, same place. Thank you.
But I wanna be the change I